hopefully the title of this message really piques some interest for you to jump on here and listen to this. We're going to talk about the crazy cycle. So this is a cycle that a lot of marriages find themselves in, and to where the husbands are looking to be respected and honored, and the women are looking to be loved, and neither one are doing either of those things. And so this is really going to help you. You're going to be blessed as you learn how to break this crazy cycle in your life and have a very fruitful, enjoyable marriage. Crazy cycle. 2 words. Crazy cycle. So I just think this is a fun topic. And
it's not fun if you're stuck in it. It's not fun. But when you can define what it is and then learn that you can overcome it, then life is good. It's not crazy anymore.
So before we say what it is, I like talking about this a lot. I minister on this a lot, that the enemy works to keep people in unproductive cycles.
That's right.
He really does. And so in marriage, he works to keep people in what we call the crazy cycle. And it's really essentially this. It's that women, their greatest need is to be properly loved. Now, there's other things that go into that. And men's greatest need is to be respected.
That's right.
And God put those needs in there. But what happens is that married couples will get into what we call the crazy cycle, to where she says something dishonoring, and then he reacts to that and acts unloving towards her. And because she feels unloved, she says something dishonoring again. And then because he feels dishonored and disrespected, he becomes unloving towards her. And it's this vicious, crazy cycle that they enter into.
And it will continue to go and go and go until somebody decides that enough is enough, and I'm actually going to be the one to go first and lead in this. And so what happens then is that one person decides that they aren't going to continue to react to the other person's unloving ways or disrespectful ways, that they're going to actually respond and then begin to sow the seeds that they need to sow. So if you're a woman, you're going to sow seeds intentional. Like, this is super intentional thought processes, and actually even thinking kind of beforehand that if I have an opportunity to react, that I'm going to respond in respect. Or for a husband, if he's going to go first in this, that he's going to say, even if I am disrespected and dishonored, that I am going to sow seeds of love. I'm going to continue to love. And when one person will go first and lead in this, then they can see the cycle obliterated.
So it's the difference between reacting and responding.
That's right.
And this is something that's been a real revelation to you. What would you, and I've got thoughts too. We've talked about this a lot. But what would you say is the difference between a reaction and a response? Because essentially when something happens, then the person it happened to, they do something with what happened to them.
That's right.
So, and it's either going to be a reaction or response, but what would you say are the differences between a reaction and response?
So, reaction is just you're in a moment. And so it's some of the first things that come to your mind. I mean, even if you're in a crisis or something happens that you didn't like, it touches you in a wrong way, then it just is like all of a sudden, what's your first reaction to this? There's not usually any intention behind it. So, and then to me, responding is that you go back and actually, partly too, you're only in a reaction, you're only valuing yourself and how you feel and how it's happening to you. And you're kind of in your self-centered circle and victimization. Why is this happening to me? Right. How come things are always wronged? I'm always wrong. Like, you're just, it's a poor perspective. Whereas response says, I actually value the person over what happened or what they did. And
That's good.
because they are valuable, they deserve love, my love in the situation, because your love in any situation can change everything. It can cause reaction to stop. It can cause people to reposture. It can cause, I mean, ultimately, it allows the Lord to be entered and invited
Right.
into the situation.
Because it really is an unconditional love. Because
It
when
is.
they're treating you poorly and you make a decision to go ahead and love them, not because of them, but in spite of them,
That's right.
then you're loving somebody unconditional. So to me, from what you're saying, it's like reaction is, it's really selfish. You're only concerned about what they are doing or saying is affecting you, and you're not really concerned about why they're doing what they're doing. Maybe they're dealing with something serious.
That's
Maybe
right.
you think it's one thing, but it's really something else, and you need to do your due diligence as their spouse and dig a little deeper and try to help them pass whatever they're dealing with.
That's right.
Which you're amazing at doing that. I mean, you really have been like a counselor to me, because I've had to walk through a lot of mental and emotional attacks that probably nobody else will know beside you. A lot of the details and things that have gone on, but you've helped me do that, because you've learned to not be reactionary, but respond out of love, saying, Lord, what can I do to help him pass this? And it's gone both ways, but it's probably been more you leading in that than me. But so a response to me is like a premeditated,
Yes.
heart condition, and just the thing that you're going to walk in love regardless of what they do. You're going to love them, and you're going to treat them right. And if you have both people that do that in a marriage, it turns into a really amazing marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, a marriage of bliss,
Yes.
excitement,
Joy. That you
Yeah.
actually enjoy each other and you
Yeah.
have fun doing life together, because you've taken out this communication error, where there's a struggle, and you've decided that you're going to stop letting it be a struggle. And let me tell you, like, it takes work and it takes effort, and it takes investment on your individual part, not only into the marriage, into yourself, but into your spouse too, because you're saying, oftentimes we don't like to look at ourselves and say, I'm what part do I own of this problem? Because communication is a two-way street. Marriage is a two-way street. It takes, two people. And oftentimes it's so easy to say, if he would do this, then I would do this. Or if she would do this, then I would do this. And so you put like this expectation on your spouse that shouldn't. Sometimes the expectations aren't even wrong, but your posture in it is wrong, because you're looking what you can gain out of it.
And you're essentially saying that, I will love them if they do this.
Right.
And thank God that the Lord didn't do that with
That's
us.
right.
He
That's right.
truly did and does love us unconditionally. And so it comes back to that. Do you value your feelings, or do you value the covenant? Which one do you value? Because if you're valuing your feelings above the covenant, you're going to find yourself not experiencing as much joy in that marriage as what you should. And in valuing the covenant, you're essentially dying to yourself, and then you're coming to value the thing that God has brought there between you two. And I say this often, that a marriage is the death of two wills, and
That's right.
it's the reviving or the birthing of a brand new will, and it's the will of that marriage. So when people come into a marriage, it literally is not about them. Now, do your needs get fulfilled? Yeah, because the other person is doing that in every sense of the word. But it's not about coming in, seeing what you can get about it. And this is the problem. One of the problems that we have is that people are so broken.
That's right.
And they come into marriages and they're looking to fill the void of loneliness.
That's right.
They're looking for, all the things that could go into a marriage. They're looking for that to fulfill them. So they come in looking for fulfillment from another natural human being that only God can really do for them. And in doing so, they make that marriage all about them. So they suffer because they're looking for fulfillment from the wrong person, not from the Lord, but from their spouse.
That's right.
And they're not also at the same time, they're not giving their spouse what they should have in that marriage and in that new covenant that's been formed there. And so they're operating from a place of deception, but also from brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why we see so many people that they either end up in divorce or they just struggle in marriage, and it's because they basically come in and they're selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a continual, and this is true for every relationship, but especially in marriage, it is a continual dying to self.
It is.
It's every day waking up saying, what can I do to make my wife, my husband happy? What is it that I can do? And sometimes it's a great prayer to pray. Lord, what can I do to really bless them today? How can I serve them today? Do I have needs? Yes. God, you'll take care of me. And most likely they're going to do something to bless me today. But our heart and desire should be to really be, blessing them. So, but we get into this. So we have to live from a place of response, premeditated already. We're going to love them regardless of how they treat me. Todd White says something really great, and this can apply to a lot of situations, but he's a very bold evangelist that goes out and he has a lot of people that hate him and hate on him, and his response is, I'm not going to hate you. Why does how you treat me have anything to do with how I'm going to treat you?
Exactly.
And that's
right.
That's how it should be in a marriage. You can totally, and I'm not saying anybody should live under abuse.
Sure.
I think that abuse, and I don't have time to get into this biblically, but I think abuse is grounds for divorce. But I'm not going to go down that road at the moment. But I think that nobody should live underneath of an abusive situation in any sense of the word. If someone's, everybody makes a mistake. If somebody yells one time, you don't say they're verbally abusive and leave them, right? So, but if someone's constantly, really abusing you, there's a place to exit that. But it's really important that we just go ahead and set ourselves at a place to, no matter how that person, no matter how my spouse treats me, I am resolved on the inside that I am going to love them, period.
That's right.
Because that's the love that Jesus gave to me, and that is the love that I'm going to walk in. That is what you call unconditional love.
That's right.
It means that I'm going to love them and treat them how the Lord treats me, and on the same basis that the Lord treats me. So the Lord loves me perfectly, and he does it on the fact that he is love, not because I'm lovely.
That's right.
So even when the other person is not being so lovely, you still love them anyways. Because
Right.
that's what true unconditional love does.
And just what you're saying, like if you get into this place where you're offended because of what they did to you or how they hurt you or what they actually didn't do, then you can't hardly move forward. Actually,
Right.
This keeps you in a place of being paralyzed and stuck. And when you're paralyzed and stuck, nobody can actually help you out of that place. Right. Your spouse can't even help you out of that place.
Right.
Only really the Lord can do that. And so
right.
we have to take this posture and we have to start asking ourselves, and this is so important, by taking ownership of what we're doing. What am I doing or what am I not doing? What words am I saying? What body language am I giving off? And if we will take responsibility of our part, then we can begin to build forward. But when we're unwilling to look at ourselves and ask ourselves these tough questions, then we'll constantly be looking at the other person and looking at their faults and looking at their problems and looking how they're not doing something right. And then we go into this mode of like, I need to fix them and I need to be the one that tells them what they're doing and how they're doing it wrong, which turns us into nagging wife, which totally makes men like
they
turn
feel
off.
disrespected. They feel dishonored.
They just shut off.
They do shut off.
They just shut off, and it's like,
so there's a proverb
yeah,
that says it's better to live in the corner of an attic than in a house with a nagging wife. And then there's another one that says, I've memorized these well. There's another one that talks about that a nagging wife is like a dripping faucet.
yes,
And so so just kind of circling back here to the talking about the the crazy cycle and looking at what that looks like, and there is a need. It's a God-breathed, God-imparted need in men to be respected. It's not selfish now it's selfish to demand it and be like, respect me. As a matter of fact, respect is not something you can demand. I had this conversation before with people, different people in the military, and they're like, no, you have to respect your people. And it's like, okay, well, I get that you can make people conform to saying, yes, sir, but that doesn't mean they really respect you.
Right.
Respect is an issue of the heart.
that's right.
And so you can't force it, but women should be, even if their men are not being respectable. Now, just hang on for any women listening. I'm going to turn this around the other way too. For any men that aren't being respectable, they still should treat their husbands respectful, even if they're not being that way.
Because that's
And it's
honor.
because it's honor, honor, showing respect, and it's choosing for the woman. It's choosing to walk in love regardless of how he's acting.
Right.
And you can choose to stop that crazy cycle if you do that.
Yeah.
One person can actually stop the crazy cycle, but it takes two to make the cycle reverse and become what it needs to be.
That's right.
But one person can stop it. So then it can work the other way also. When you have a wife, because I've met men that are married to women, and they are, I've seen them, and I thought, because I worked in homes a lot of times, and I would see these women. I was hanging draperies, and I'd see these women just rag on their husbands, and I thought, I would never put up with that. I would not that I would do anything to her if I was married to her, but I wouldn't stay in something like that. But there's grace to be in where you're at, and you just have to humble yourself and find the grace for where you're at. But men who have a wife that's doing that, if they will choose to love her unconditionally, they can stop the cycle. Now, until she stops nagging and starts honoring him, there's not going to be the fulfillment in the marriage that there needs to be. But he can choose to do that just to love her. Why would a woman nag? Why would she do that? It's because of how she's been trained. It's because of brokenness that she came out of.
Right.
Maybe she was abused by a man when she was, or multiple men when she was younger, or had bad boyfriend relationships, and she's developed some hardness towards men, and it's carried over into her marriage. So she's operating from a place of brokenness, and she needs healing. Well, so you can't not love her. You need to love her and pray and believe God and seek for some help to get to the root of the problem. When you look at men, why would they be so unloving? It's probably because they weren't loved right. They don't have a revelation of the love of God. You could go into, there's always something deeper at the root. So for us to look at our spouse and react to them,
Right.
says multiple things. It says, first of all, that I value me more than I value you, and my feelings and my emotions and having my needs met. But it also says that I'm not intuitive enough to realize that you are doing something because of something. People do things because of how they're wired, how they were brought up, demonic influence. There could be a number of things that are causing them to be like they are, when it's not a good thing to be like they are. Shouldn't we love people enough to want to see them set free?
Yes.
And the answer should be yes. But when husbands and wives become self-centered or remain self-centered, and they stay in this cycle of no love, no respect, then they'll just stay in that vicious cycle until one of them kills the other one, or they get a divorce, is usually what happens.
They usually flee, because how long?
Who wants to live in that?
Can you stay in
But this is the reason.
Insane thing?
This is the reason why people will be married multiple times.
That's right.
Is because they don't get to the root of the problem. they carry their problems with them. And they're usually, people will be attracted to the same kind of person, and they usually are attracted to the same kind of person with the same kind of problems. It's not conscious. It's subconscious, but they do that, and they find themselves in the same type of marriage. That's why you can have people that are married, 3, 4, 5 times, and it's the same kind of person, same kind of problems, and they just carry that vicious cycle from one marriage to another. And you could actually take this even outside of marriage and say in a lot of relationships this could be true, but we're really talking about in the confines of marriage. And this vicious cycle, crazy cycle, has to end, and it has to be the choice. It has to start with somebody. And I say this, that if husbands will do the right thing, if men will do the right thing and stand up and say, I'm going to love my family, it will almost always, not in every case, but almost always cause everything else to be straightened out. When a man pursues the Lord and pursues his family, pursues his wife, it will usually cause the woman's heart to melt like butter. Yeah. It will, because what a woman wants is a man who is strong, but also is very humble and meek, who's willing to say, I missed it, I blew it, I was wrong, and I will do whatever is necessary to make this thing work. And if men will man up, humble themselves, and do whatever is necessary to really love their wives and their family, they can change the dynamics in a home and in a marriage almost overnight. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that there's not a lot to work through, but they can begin that process and really see change. And the Bible says that, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. So I've been in different circles where there was some abuse, and it was like, women, you need to be submissive to your husbands. And it's like, honestly, submission is an issue of the heart, because
submission is a response.
It is a response
to love.
Right, it is. But submission is an issue of the heart, because you can have a wife that doesn't say anything and be submissive in that sense, and she doesn't backtalk in that sense, but on the inside she's thinking, he better sleep with one eye open, because I might just whatever. I mean, that stuff goes on all the time. It goes on all the time. Right. And so that's not submission. Right. So yeah, wives need to be at that place to where they have that kind of thing of like, I'll do anything for. And actually, this goes into so much. We're basically out of time. So it is in women to want. I don't care what women's rights movements have said. Okay, there is a place for. And the reason women's rights, the whole movement has gone so overboard, is because they had to fight for things they should have never had to fight for. Right. They should have never had to fight for the right to be able to vote, to work, any of that kind of stuff. They should have that right done. But there is a God-given, God-breathed, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but something inside of women that says, I want to serve my family. Yes. And it's not like, no, you just stay home and be in your place, woman. It's not about that, but there's something in you, and you can verify this as a woman, to really want to be able to, to serve your family. And I don't remember where I was going with all this, but this is another topic for another time. But there is and this is what I was going to say, is that, when it comes to like husbands or wives being submissive to husbands, there is this thing in women to be like, I'm here and I'm going to support you. That's right. And here's the deal, is that men long for women to do that. They long for a woman to say, because you do that for me. I mean, I sometimes I pinch myself and think, how did I end up marrying you? You're the most incredible woman. There's only 2 women I can think of that come close to you, and that's my mom and my sister. You're the most incredible woman that I've ever met in my life. But we've entered into this, instead of a crazy cycle, we have a love cycle. Yeah. And
I love that. The love cycle.
You long to support me. Yes. But I have learned, and here's the trick, men. I have learned, and I don't do it perfectly, but in that verse in Ephesians chapter 5, where it says, for wives to be submissive, it also says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And gave himself for her. And Jesus, his life was so given that it's caused, when people get a hold of the love of God, it causes our hearts to melt like butter, to where we'll go, I'll do anything for you. Right. And when a man will take his family and lay down his life, lay down his will, lay down his feelings, lay down his emotions, lay down his right to be right, and just love his family, take care of them, but love his family,
Right.
that they'll follow him. And the wife will say, anything you want to do,
With
I'll do
ease.
it. So instead of having this big fight, and it's not about, well, yeah, women really need to be in their place. Nah, forget all that stuff. There's something in men to lead and to move forward and to see the thing go. And there's something in women that God's put there to be a helpmeet.
Yeah.
And to say, I'm here to help you fulfill what God has placed on the inside of you. Not that they can't have vision and dreams and stuff. I'm not saying that they can't have that, okay? But there's something in that God's caused to work together, but because of this crazy cycle, people don't get anywhere.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Instead of, one for all and all for one.
Yes, right.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I hope that you're going to get on board with what I want to do. And if each person is saying that, of course, there's going to be no love and no respect.
Right.
So it's like coming in that common union and unity and moving forward in that.
Exactly right. We're so out of time, but this is a great conversation.
So good.
So good.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation. We hope this has and will continue to encourage you in your marriage and family. Don't forget to download and comment and share this episode. You can check out Ward Ministries at wardmen.org. If you have any questions, please email us at info@wardmen.org. Keep your eye out weekly for our latest conversation on marriage and family.